In today's video, I'm going to show you 4 active and, in my opinion, underfarmed points programs that you can use to qualify for airdrops. These aren't your programs that already have hundreds of millions or even close to $1 billion invested in them. These are programs that are much smaller, so you have a much better chance of getting a solid allocation when these protocols eventually launch in airdrops. And of course, there's no guarantee that they do an airdrop or what the conversion between points and tokens is eventually. However, in general, when crypto protocols offer some sort of point for using their platform, generally it means that they're planning to do an airdrop to people who have points later on. Welcome back to Dynamo DeFi. My name is Patrick. As a reminder, nothing in this video is financial advice and everything in cryptocurrency carries risk. Now, let's get into the video. To start, let's get ourselves situated. We're going to be referencing this document that I put together, which has 11 points programs, although I'm going to highlight 4 that I believe are underfarmed. But all of the 11 points programs in this are either active or coming soon. And I also shared the chain, whether it's active, what the protocol does, and then the steps that you would need to do in order to earn points on the platform. And one thing I'll note about this is that, again, if you aren't familiar with how points programs work, probably the most well-known points program at this point is going to be Jito. Jito is a major liquid staking platform on Solana, and their points program, which they concluded in December, resulted in an airdrop that was worth 5 figures for almost anyone who had staked through Jito. And so partly as a result of this, there's more attention on points programs, and also more protocols have launch points programs because they want to attract yield farmers, or in this case, airdrop farmers. And if you've been using DeFi for a while and maybe you aren't into airdrop farming, or you don't understand the point of points, then basically one way to think about it is that you are pre-farming tokens. I first started talking about Jito back in September, and when we were staking our SOL on Jito as Jito SOL, it wasn't just to, quote, farm an airdrop. The reason we were staking our SOL on Jito SOL is that we were pre-farming the Jito token because they had this points program, and one could assume that there would be some conversion between points and eventual Jito tokens. Staking SOL as Jito SOL made sense. And it turned out to pay off because many of us got very nice airdrops from Jito. And so that's the way to think about all of these points programs, is you're basically pre-farming tokens of solid protocols. And the protocols that I'm going to highlight today are ones that, in my opinion, they're underfarmed, or they at least are not overfarmed. And the 4 that I'm going to highlight today are going to be Parcel, which is on Solana. Parcel is a platform for trading real estate markets on chain. I'm going to talk about Prime Protocol, which is a platform for cross-chain borrowing and lending. It's on 9 different networks. I'm going to talk about Renzo, which is an Ethereum restaking protocol. And you can actually earn points both for Renzo and for Eigenlayer by using Renzo protocol. And then I'm going to talk about Hyperliquid, which is on Arbitrum, and Hyperliquid is a perp DEX. And there's a lot of other good ones on here, and several others that I would have liked to include in this video. However, their points program is coming soon, and I don't actually know when it's going to launch. But definitely recommend checking out this document to actually find all of the points programs. All right, so let's talk about these ones that we want to highlight today. First is going to be Parcel, and Parcel is on Solana again. And to me, this is really interesting because this takes some of the best aspects of crypto and DeFi and applies them to a market that is not on your typical crypto digital asset tokens. It applies it to real estate markets. And truthfully, I think that this is a pretty good use case for crypto. It takes a market that right now is not very liquid, that is real estate, and then makes it liquid through perpetual futures. And they have some major backers: Coinbase Ventures, Dragonfly, Archetype, Solana Ventures. However, while the liquidity is not nothing, 15 million, that's definitely not so high that you can't farm a decent allocation even with a small stack. And if we go to launch the app, then you can see it looks something like this. Yes, it's telling me that my access is restricted, but we're not actually going to use it right now. You can see which markets are trending up, which markets are trending down. You can trade on them. However, if you want to actually earn points on Parcel, you can either provide liquidity or you can trade. And personally, I decided to provide liquidity. Reason being that it is easier. I can deposit some USDT in here and then not really think about it again, right? well, I think about it because I'm monitoring it and covering it as a content creator, but I don't really have to touch the position again. So I deposited some USDC. I have a couple of their NFTs to boost the number of points that I'm earning. And then I'm just letting it sit. If you want to earn a 5% boost on your points, then you can use my ref code Dynamo, just like the name of the channel. Use ref code Dynamo for a 5% boost on your parcel points. Margin Fi, we talked about a lot in this channel. However, that one is heavily farmed, maybe even over farmed at this point. So we're not going to focus on that today. Next, we want to talk about Prime Protocol. We love Prime Protocol. And honestly, I'm surprised people aren't talking about Prime more, because it's a pretty unique application and they're doing something actively that a lot of other applications are promising to do in the future. And what Prime lets you do is it lets you deposit, lend out on one chain, and then use that collateral to borrow on an entirely different chain. And you can see they just have some examples up here. For example, you can deposit on Polygon and borrow on Ethereum. Or you can deposit, well, they say any chain, on all chains. You could deposit on Avalanche, borrow on Arbitrum. You could deposit on Arbitrum, borrow on Avalanche. And they're backed by some big people: Jump, Framework, Arrington Capital. And, I find this to be pretty useful, especially if you're, for example, trying to farm passively with some funds where you deposit them in Prime, and then you want to borrow on another chain to use those other funds, maybe to yield farm or to airdrop farm something else. And so I'm actively farming this one as well. And then they have their Prime points program. And basically the way their points program works is pretty unique, but I like it because it rewards people who have been staking for a long time. So every $1 deposited earns 1 point over the course of a year. However, it's divvied out, so each day you actually earn points. $1 borrowed earns the equivalent of 3 points gained over a year. So like many of these lending protocols, you get more points if you borrow. A simple way to game that is just to either loop deposits and borrows, or to borrow and not do anything with it, so you can quickly pay back your position if you need to. But here's the cool thing. After your deposits or borrows are kept in the protocol for 1 week, they start to accumulate at 2x the normal rate, meaning that $1 would earn 2 points over the course of a year. And then $1 borrowed would earn 6 points over the course of a year. After they've been deposited for 2 weeks, they start to accumulate at 3x the normal rate. And so basically, the longer you deposit, the faster you earn points. And I think that's good because that rewards people who are in it for the long run. Also, for us passive airdrop farmers, it's also solid because I have no problem parking something in here for 3 weeks. Granted, all these applications have risks, so do your own research on this. However, I will say they have good partners like Axelar, and they are audited by 2 different firms. So I was comfortable parking some funds, but I'm not, don't put your life savings in any of these applications. Please don't put your life savings on anything. Our next application I want to highlight is Renzo protocol. Let's take a look at Renzo. So Renzo is easy ETH restaking. So basically you can restake your ETH in here and it routes it through EigenLayer. So it's an interface for the EigenLayer ecosystem, securing actively validated services and offering a higher yield on ETH staking. If you aren't familiar with EigenLayer, EigenLayer is a restaking protocol, and they also have an Eigen data availability service. But one way to think about restaking is that it allows you to earn extra yield on your ETH by using your staked ETH tokens to then secure other networks. And Renzo basically functions as a strategy manager as well as a more user-friendly interface for the EigenLayer ecosystem. And the cool thing is, let's go into the application now, is that you can see that you earn Renzo points. However, you also earn EigenLayer points. And right now you're actually earning 3x the Renzo restaking points as a reward for being early. So definitely something that one might consider doing. It is on Ethereum, so I understand that the gas fees are higher. However, if you use Ethereum, you use Ethereum DeFi, you've got some ETH that you want to earn yield on, you can earn yield on here while accumulating points for these two protocols. And by the way, I'm not talking about EigenLayer today simply because it's so big. However, I would argue EigenLayer has a good chance of being the largest airdrop of the year in terms of total dollar value. If not the largest, it's going to be one of the largest. It basically does something similar to what Celestia does, plus it's also restaking. So that's Renzo protocol. And then finally, we have Hyperliquid. And now note that this says the chain is Arbitrum, and when you onboard to Hyperliquid, you'll go through Arbitrum. However, Hyperliquid is technically its own chain. So just know that you are technically using a separate chain from the normal Arbitrum 1 chain that you would do DeFi on. And they have an active points program, and they are a perp dex. And I think they stand out from other perp dexes in several ways. First is they have a really sleek user interface. I mean, it feels like you're using a centralized exchange. However, there are other perp dexes that also offer this. But what I think really stands out for them is they have a lot of really cool tokens that normally you wouldn't find perps for on-chain, and sometimes you wouldn't find perps for anywhere, even on a centralized exchange. So for example, say you wanted to trade perps on Celestia, TIA, you can do that on Hyperliquid. Say you want to trade perps on Say, that's a popular token right now, you can do that on Hyperliquid too. Say you wanted to trade perps on, let's find something a little bit smaller. Say you wanted to trade perps on Friend Tech, the total cumulative value of everything on Friend Tech, well, you could do that on here too. And this was actually one of the first things that caught my attention about Hyperliquid, was they had this back early on, right after Friend Tech launched. So they have basically offer perps on a lot of things that normally you wouldn't have perps for on chain. And now their points program, one thing that's important to note is they're distributed every Thursday, and the criteria for the points are constantly shifting. However, some things that you can do in general if you want to qualify would be, of course, to trade, use the various features of their trading platform, and also to deposit funds in their vault, and specifically to deposit funds in their Hyperliquidity provider vault. And to boot, this has a nice APR. However, no, there have been times where it actually had a negative return. If we look, for example, there was a period in December where it was negative, but since then it's at a very, very positive return. And so just be mindful that this won't necessarily always be up, and certainly won't always be this high. However, I think this is a good way to earn points as well. If you want to learn more about farming airdrops, I'd also refer you to my video, A Complete Crypto Airdrop Guide for 2024. This is going to go through some other strategies for earning airdrops this year. And if you want to see more videos like this one, be sure to like and subscribe. Until next time, this is Dynamo DeFi.